Well, welcome back for another episode of the Brand My Career podcast. And today I'm joined by Laura Allen. She's a career coach in England, and I've had the pleasure of getting connected with her on LinkedIn. And she's going to be joining us today for an interview. So thanks for joining us, Laura.
Thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. So I thought we could just start off by maybe you could share a bit about what you do, where you are exactly, because obviously I don't know the full layout of England. So, could you just share a bit about you and where you are and what you do?
Yep. So my name is Laura Allen, and I'm a career coach and also a bit of a business coach as well. I am based just outside London, probably about an hour outside of London in the UK. So I have the best of both worlds. I can get the train into London and do the party life and the city life, but I've also got fields and sheeps and cows just down the road. So it's a nice little mix. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you're talking to people like me from Australia, do you just often say you're from London?
Yeah, it's just it's a lot easier just like London.
Yeah. I had someone thinking that I had basically just moved from Sydney the other day, when we're actually about 3.5 hours away, and so it's like the further someone is from where we were, you just sort of start saying, "Oh, you're basically Sydney."
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
I know
I
of
totally get
like
that.
I know of like three places in Australia. I think it's like Sydney, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Bondi. These are the only like words I've ever heard associated with
Yeah,
your
yeah,
country. So am I
yeah.
right? Are they all the same place or
Sorta.
different?
So Bondi is the beach in Sydney.
Okay.
So there's Bondi Beach, which is at Sydney, one of Sydney's main beaches. Yeah.
Okay.
But then obviously there's the Gold Coast is an area, not necessarily a city. But yeah,
Okay.
everything else was pretty bang on. So do you know do you know the capital of Australia?
I don't
Silence.
know why. I don't know. I don't know why New England is coming to my head, but I don't even think that's Australia, is it?
There is a region called New England.
Okay.
But no, I've watched videos of this, of people asking like non-Australians, like, what's the capital of Australia? And they just like say every single city but the capital, which is Canberra.
I would never have known that.
No one knows it. It's out in the middle of nowhere, basically. But I
Which is
actually,
crazy.
yeah, I did my apprenticeship there back in the day, but that's another story. Yeah, so let's sort of dive in. So yeah, and we'll get into your Wellbeing Day business that you've just launched as well
Mhm.
recently. But sort of diving into your career coaching journey. So do you want to just share? I guess firstly, do you want to give a bit of an overview of your career journey?
Yeah, perfect. So I was a college dropout, and I'm proud to say that.
Woohoo.
I
Well, you're in
I
a good
went
company.
to Oh, good. Are you the same?
Yeah.
So when I left school, I felt that panic of what do I do? What I need to figure out my entire life at the age of 16, which is just crazy. I really wanted to be a radio DJ, and I went to our local college and did a course, and I just found myself sitting there not paying attention, wanting to fall asleep in class, and that's really not like me. I'm quite like an attention focused person. And I realized that that obviously meant that something wasn't right. And I felt like I needed to go to work. And so I came home one day and I said, Mum, I'm really upset and I want to quit college. And I thought she was going to be really disappointed in me. And she turned around and was like, okay, that's fine. She was like, I dropped out of college. So that was like, what? You're a college dropout? So that was a bit of information I didn't know about my mum at the time. And I went to work. So I worked in a company or a shop called Boots, the Chemist. They're a big pharmacy sort of retail business here in the UK. And I was just sort of working on the counter, serving. It was Christmas coming up, so they got me filling shelves, etc. And I ended up working for them for 8 years. So I did everything within a store. I quite quickly got promoted to a team leader. I used to work in the photo lab, just doing disposable films when people used to do those, and loved
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Worked in the pharmacy, became an assistant store manager, and then I ended up in London as a trainer. So I was always obsessed with delivering training. So every time I had to go on a training course, I'd say to the trainers, how did you get this job? Like, how did you get this? And so I knew there was something within me that really wanted to do that. So I kept talking to people, and then I got an opportunity to go to London for Boots and do a training role. So that was amazing. I did that for about 18 months. And again, got to travel into London, do the city thing, and then come home again to the countryside. So that was lovely. And then overnight, the company restructured, and everybody that was supporting the project that I was on at the time just sort of disappeared overnight. And I was back in a store role in London, and I thought, oh, this isn't the one. I already knew that I was passionate about working with people and delivering training. And I thought, well, it makes sense that I go and study sort of learning and development and get into the HR space. So I started studying for my CIPD level 3, which is kind of like the entry level qualification over here. And yeah, it really sparked my interest. And then I quite quickly realized that I needed to get out of retail and into a corporate type role, which is actually a lot harder than you think, because people in corporates and, you know, that work behind a desk and laptops just think, oh, well, you've only ever worked in a shop. So what experience do you have to bring to this role? And I went for lots of interviews and I got rejected a lot. And then I finally landed an interview. And I realized it was a lot about transferable skills. So being in HR is very similar to customer service. At the end of the day, you are there to serve people and to help them get what it is that they need and leave them with a smile on their face. So I was able to talk a lot about how I work directly with people to help support them, etc. Plus, I did have my training, my L&D experience from Boots as well. So I managed to get that role, which was great. So I sort of came into the company as a HR coordinator, and I quite quickly progressed in that company as well, like I did in Boots. And I made my opinions and voice heard, and I said, I don't want to be in this role forever. Like, L&D is my passion. This is what I want to do. And that got picked up by the managing director, who put me on a project to go and deliver loads of training. And it kind of just went from there, really. I ended up, when I left there, I was the head of the HR shared services. So I was running the team that I originally got hired into. So that was really lovely to be able to kind of get to that point and say, this is now my team and I now manage these people. And I think what worked really well for me from that point of view is that I'd done all the roles that the team members had done. So I could relate and I could support and be that person. So that was nice.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, and you sort of half answered it in that of going, so clearly you've shown some ability that when you get into a role, you've been able to progress up and, you know, get promotions and things. What do you think are some of the things that you've done that have allowed you to sort of progress in those careers internally?
I've been a pain in the arse. In a good way. So in a good way, you know, when someone gives me a piece of work, I like to look into it a little bit more, and I challenge things. If I don't believe in something, I will challenge it in a professional way. Like, I won't sit there across the boardroom and have an argument, but I will say, I'm not sure I agree with this, and I feel like we could maybe do it this way, and I believe that because of why. And I would just always kind of make my voice heard, as opposed to just sort of taking the work and being like, okay, fine. I was always very vocal about my ambitions and my goals. To my own detriment, I definitely went through a very dark period in my life where I was struggling with depression, anxiety. I ended up in therapy, and he sort of said, yep, you are a classic case of a perfectionist. And he was like, it's okay not to give 100% all the time. And that's just not something that my brain could comprehend. So when he said that to me, I was like, sorry, what? Like, if you're not aiming for 100%, then what are you doing? And it took a lot of like deconditioning to kind of, you know, come down from that. So yeah, I was always a go-getter and just kind of put myself out there. But like I said, it did cause me problems.
Yeah, it can be a double-edged sword, can't it? It's so we'll dive into that a little bit more, but I guess just touching on some of the things you've said there. So clearly the ability to self-advocate and communicate clearly is a really key part of being able to progress in a career. And that willingness to speak up and actually give an opinion is one of the key things to getting one, recognized, and so people don't forget that you exist, but two, them actually seeing that you have something more to offer than just someone that goes through the steps. Because I guess as you progress further in a career, it's less about just being able to sit down and knock out a task, and more about being able to problem solve and actually get in and actually drive something forward, not just
Yeah.
sit back and do what you're told. Is
Yeah,
probably a key
absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. And it's about being, innovative in what you're doing. And I certainly would feel frustrated if someone came to me and just said, I don't know how to do this. And I'd say, well, have you tried? What have you tried up until this point? Have you looked at it from a different angle? Have you tried to self-serve and go look for an answer? And I would always, if I came up, so for example, in HR, you're not necessarily expected to know how to use spreadsheets and data. But I was doing really manual tasks and thinking there must be a quicker and easier way to do this. So I self-taught myself how to do VLOOKUPs and how to use spreadsheets and how to do formulas and stuff like that. And occasionally I'd have to go to someone in finance and be like, do you have any idea why this isn't working? And I'd get someone to teach me. But otherwise I was just using Google. So when someone comes to me and says, oh, I don't know how to do this, I kind of like expect them to be like, well, you tell me that you've tried and exhausted every other option before you come to me, because how are you going to learn if all you do is go to someone else and just ask for the answer? So there is something there around just being able to go and try and self-serve.
Yeah, being resourceful and problem solving. I think so because I'm similar. Like most of the things I've learned, like I was just chatting with a videographer yesterday, and both of us were like, "Yeah, we've pretty much learned all we know from YouTube." And
Yeah.
I think there is something for that of people that maybe haven't connected with mainstream education. They've, once you actually find something that you're really passionate about, it's like you're just willing to do what you need to do to find a way, and you're
Yeah.
sort of not locked into sort of maybe traditional modes of how you're meant to learn something, and you're also not worried about finding an alternative way to get there, So yeah,
I
maybe it's
agree. And that's one of,
yeah.
sorry to cut you off. I was going to say that's one of my key messages that I talk about on LinkedIn. Like my career change journey out of corporate started from reading a book. I read a book, The 4 Hour Work Week, and I got inspired. And I actually can't remember what the book was about now, I'll be totally honest
Yeah.
with you. But at the time, it sparked something in me. And I read another book, and then I went onto YouTube, and then I listened to podcasts, and then I started learning. And that was how I changed my career. Yes, I then went to some qualifications as well. But just that free resource bit at the front was so powerful. And I really recommend, there's never been a better time to change careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess you started to touch on there that in that job you sort of started to experience some depression and anxiety and stuff. I guess
Yep.
what do you think was sort of at the root of that, and how did you sort of work your way through that?
So initially I wanted to be a HR director. I was like, that's it, I'm going to go to the top. And if I'm at the top, I will be able to influence so much, and I'll be able to get decisions across the table, and it's all going to be great, and employees are going to love their life. I quite quickly realized on my way up that way that that was never going to happen, because even when you get to the top, you're going to be met with objections by people who don't think that HR has value. So I got really into HR systems because I like data. I'm very sort of like solution focused. I ended up working alongside the HRIS team in the company, and they offered me a role and basically said, hey, if you want to come and work for us, we'll give you this role. There'll be a £20,000 salary increase for you. And I was like, awesome. Yeah, okay, I like this. I wasn't allowed to take that promotion. I got blocked by the finance director in the UK business because he knew what was coming over the hill for the company in the UK the following year, lots of acquisitions and mergers, etc. And he knew he needed my skill set. So I wasn't able to make that jump. And for someone, as I said, who was striving for perfection, who was really ambitious, was suddenly told, oh no, you can't, you've got no control over your career. And it quite literally broke me. And I'd been going, I guess I burnt out because I'd been going so hard and trying to progress and please everybody and try and get to these places for so long that when that happened, it was just the final straw and it broke. So I had a therapist, and he really focused on tools. So it was a bit like CBT. And he was teaching me different ways to sort of prioritize, and made me realize that I would wake up in the morning and I would just go up. Like I'd be straight to the gym, like high impact, high energy. Then I'd go to work, and then eventually at the end of the day I'd crash. And he was like, it's just not sustainable. So it was really eye-opening how he made me look at my life. So that was the end of 2019. And I kind of got to the start of 2020 and I was like, okay, I do need to change my careers. If I can't stay here, this has really not left me feeling great. So I thought in 2020, right, this is it. This is the year I'm going to change my career. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure something out. And then COVID. So I sort of sat there
What
and
better
was
way
like,
to come out of well-being struggle than getting smashed by COVID, right?
yeah, exactly. Oh, and it gets so worse. So yeah, so that happened. My boss at the time had then she'd got furloughed because her daughter was really sick. And that's when the company was like, hey, you're the perfect person to now fill this head of HR shared services role. And I was like, please don't make me. Please don't make me. I don't want to manage people. I don't want to. Don't make me. I'd managed people since I was 16 working at Boots. Like I'd done the management thing. But anyway, so I got that and they were like, just stick it out for a couple of years. There's loads for you to get your hands on in here. Lots of processes that need ripping out and starting again. You'll have a great time, because they knew the sort of thing that I enjoyed. So that was kind of where I'd got to on the career point. But then my mum got sick. So she got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and she only lasted 4 months. So that took us to October 2020. So she passed away. And that was kind of like this massive eye-opening moment for me, where I just thought, wow, if she's 61 and been taken from us like so quickly, that might mean that I've only got another 30 years of my life. And do I want to spend it sat here doing this? Like, absolutely not. And so it was very eye-opening. But again, I was still sat there going, oh God, but what am I going to do? Like, do I stay in HR? I don't know anything else. This is what I've done for the last like 8 years. This is everything I've worked for. Like, I can't change. So it actually took for me to go to Costa Rica the following year. I took a sabbatical because I'd worked full time since I was 16. I never did university. I never did a gap year. I never did like big travel. So I felt quite isolated and stuck. So yeah, I was able to get a sabbatical and I ran away to Costa Rica. And then I just saw lots of people sat by the beach, tapping on their laptops and surfing. And I just thought, hang on a minute, why aren't you sat behind a desk in an office working 9 till 5? Because it was still, for me back then, the whole sort of like nomad scene was, I didn't really know much about it. So that was kind of what sparked the next part.
Yeah. And do you think, looking back on it, like the motivation to take off to Costa Rica, do you think that was driven by positive things, or do you think that was, were you trying to sort of escape some of the, I guess, the pain and struggle at home?
Good question. I think a bit of both. I think predominantly I looked at my life and thought, I've not done anything fun. I've not done anything big and crazy and outlandish that I can look back and go, oh, I'm so glad I did that. So there was part of me that wanted to have my magical moment. I definitely was still like deep in grief and struggle at that point. And it was actually the year anniversary of her passing away, that like 2 days after we landed in Costa Rica, and my friends had all put some money together to pay for me and my friend who I was traveling with to stay in a really nice accommodation for that night and stuff. And so it was really sweet how they kind of rallied around and stuff. But it definitely was just the fact that I was like, wow, what have I done with my life? I've literally worked since I was 16. Like, was I really put on this planet to work? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's so I guess it was kind of like, in some ways it was an extreme response, but it was, I guess, obviously a pretty extreme scenario that you're in, extreme grief that you're trying to work through and stuff. And so, and do you feel that that was a turning moment for you in that sort of healing process?
Yeah, I mean, I went and I went and met a shaman who told me
Yeah.
that all of my chakras were not aligned and blew smoke in my face and did a dance around me, and that was all quite fun.
Yeah.
But it was definitely the catalyst that changed my life. I always think that when you're stuck in the same kind of environment that you're always used to, it's really hard to be creative with your mind. And I
Yeah.
needed to get out and go and spend time somewhere else to be like, wow, there is a whole nother world out here. There are people that are working from their laptops and then jumping in the sea. If they can do that, I can do that. If I was to work as
Yeah.
hard for myself as I do for these companies, then why would I not? Like it can work. So I'm so grateful for that experience because it really did change everything. My whole
Yeah.
entire outlook and perspective on life and career.
Yeah. Awesome. And so I guess jumping into sort of your career coaching journey. So
Mm-hmm.
how does that then connect in? When was it that you were sort of like, all right, I'm going to do career coaching?
Well, so I came back from Costa Rica in the December and I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What can I do? That's going to mean I can work from the beach. And it took me 3 and a bit months to figure that out. I honestly didn't really put much work into it in a sense. I didn't look for support. I didn't really know there was support out there. I just kept saying to the universe, like, give me an answer, give me an answer. Eventually, the word coaching popped into my head, which I was like, oh, okay. And then I kind of reflected back on my career and all the things that I've done and all the things that I've enjoyed. And I thought, well, it's always been training, development, coaching. Like, that makes total sense. So I reached out to a couple of people that were doing kind of like life coaching type stuff to understand more about the coaching industry and what people were doing. And I enrolled on a holistic coaching course. So that was very interesting because I learned lots about different holistic modalities that you can use as part of a coaching session, taking people through guided meditation, EFT tapping, which I was already doing,
Yeah.
Reiki, which I was already doing, and finished that course. And I was like, cool, this sounds awesome. I've got a toolkit, but how do I coach? So I didn't actually learn the key skills to coaching. So I then signed up and did a coaching course and understood the fundamentals of, how to be a good coach. And I originally was going to go down the life coaching route, and I thought, oh, this is fine. Like, I'm a very holistic person. I'm changing my life. Like, I can help other people do the same. However, I'm a very structured systems-based person. And with life coaching, it's a little bit more kind of sit back, relax, and see where it goes. Whereas I like to say to someone, I'm going to take you from A to B, and this is the process I'm going to take you through.
Yeah.
So then it kind of made sense to go into career coaching. And my approach to career coaching is a kind of life coaching, career coaching mix. My outlook and perspective is that your career should enhance and enrich your life. So, what are your life goals? And then let's work out the career piece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because so similar for me coming from career development. And I often say, like, career development is just another way of saying life development, but you're sort of obviously focusing on the career aspect. But it all needs to be in alignment with what your actual goals are for your life and where you're wanting it to go. So you can't separate the two when you're spending a third of your life, often in your workplace, and then you try and sort of separate the two. It's a bit of relic thinking, really.
Well, yeah, for sure. And that's when I speak to people and I'm saying, what is it you really want? They're like, oh, I just want to spend more time with my kids. And I'm like, okay, so does your career currently allow you to do that? No. I'm like, okay, so let's try and change that so that you can, or like, empower people to make changes. And sometimes people don't even leave their current company, but they feel empowered to go, well, actually, this is what I need for me to stay working with you. And then they go and have conversations with their employer and then find out that their employer's like, oh, yeah, sure, of course you can do that.
Yeah.
But the people don't think
Yeah.
that they can ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people often forget that they actually have a say in their career within their employment and to their bosses and managers and things. And
Yeah.
it's the same for, always telling people, like when it comes to even interviewing, it's like, you're interviewing them as well, right? You're trying to find out if you want to work for them. It's not just all the power
Yeah.
isn't just in the employer's hands. Obviously, if you want to keep that job, then there's elements that you might want to keep to keep to yourself or something. But you are empowered to take control of your life and do that however you feel you need to. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
So what would you say? You were saying you sort of learnt how to coach. What would you say are some of the sort of core elements to career coaching?
Good question. Not speaking, which is something I really struggle to do. Fundamentally with coaching, it's about asking the questions to enable the other person to come to the conclusion on their own. I would say I do a bit more of a blend of career coaching and sort of mentoring, because I think there are certain processes that I like to take people to and explain and say, well, have you thought about it like this versus this? And then see what their response is and then question them more on that there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's and with career coaching as well, as I said, for me, there's so much that goes into it. It's not just about the physical job and the skills and the things that you enjoy doing. It factors in your life, your family, your financial goals, and sometimes the outcome isn't even that. As I say, people want to change careers, but they want to do something on the side, which is how I ended up getting into business coaching, because most people were coming to me and actually wanting to start like a side hustle because there was something in that was going to give them like a creative outlet that they didn't actually know that they needed. Like, it wasn't that they hate their job and they're okay with staying in it, but they're missing something, and it can come in other ways.
Yeah, absolutely. How important do you think it's been, like in terms of your own life experiences and the challenges that you've faced, and obviously the career journey that you've gone on? Like, how important do you think that has been to sort of shaping how you sort of coach other people through their career?
Huge, because I stayed stuck for a long time and I allowed my career to really affect my mental health. And that was all stemmed to beliefs, like self-limiting beliefs. My parents were very traditional people. They were like, go into a corporate job, find a normal sort of role that's not going to stress you out too much, and just
Yeah.
stay there until you retire.
Yeah.
So when I was sat there on the beach in Costa Rica being like, I think this is what I want to do, there was something inside of me going, but no, we don't do that. We work 9 to 5 and that's all we're ever going to do. And so I totally understand the internal battles that people face when it comes to career changes. I also have a different outlook on life to a lot of people because of losing my mum. Like, I just think life's too short. There's a fuck it element. You've really just got to live the life that you want to live. And so whilst I absolutely don't want to push that onto people, I think part of that is what attracts people to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess they obviously know some of your approach, or at least your personality, through the content and stuff that you're putting out, and that. So that's really good. And I think, yeah, absolutely. Like, you've got to bring that experience. Like, that's everyone that's in coaching, and everyone in everything has a story. Like, everyone has a career story, and I'm of the belief no one has a boring career story, because even if you went and did the same, you went through college, you got the job, you stayed in that job for 50 years and you retire, like, there are all kinds of twists and turns that person would have faced, and lessons learnt and struggles faced. And so I don't think there's a single boring career story, and I think all of us need to be able to bring that story and those lessons we've learned to one another to sort of help build each other up and help each other along that journey. So, but I guess part of the thing that you're now looking at is sort of getting back to your first love a bit more as well, with the Your Wellbeing Day business that you've launched. So do you want to share a bit about that business?
Yeah. So I realised yesterday, I don't know what the word exactly is. You've got multi-talented, multi-passionate, and then a multi-potentialite, I think is the word, which is basically somebody who likes doing lots of stuff. And I think that's good. I think that's healthy. For me, fundamentally, has always been people and helping people feel happier and healthier and expand their consciousness. And so I was using EFT tapping myself as a tool. So emotional freedom technique is the process of tapping on different meridian points on the body, which sends calming signals to the amygdala and also moves any blocked energy that is running through your meridian lines. I use that quite heavily in my career change journey as my confidence tool to basically talk myself out of those self-limiting beliefs. So when I kind of got into the coaching space, I also realized that there was something amazing about using that tool. And if I could take that back into corporates and into the workplace and help people manage their stress better, because it's amazing for sending a calming signal to the amygdala, then I would have something there that I could also do that would also fuel my need for kind of training in bigger areas, because coaching is very, obviously it's one-on-one, but I still love delivering to big groups of people. So I created this 2.5 hour workshop, and I went and approached some companies and was able to deliver it and got some really great results. But I was like, it's a little bit hard sometimes to go in as one individual into a corporate setting. And then upon my journey of networking and meeting other people, I found lots of other individuals who were trying to get into the corporate training space, doing individual workshops such as menopause and nutrition, breath work, mindset. So I had a bit of a brainwave and thought, well, what if I create something where we could all collectively come together and package it up in a nice little bow? So that's where Your Wellbeing Day was born. Yeah. And the other reason I wanted to do this is because I personally used to get very frustrated when I was told to attend training that had nothing to do with me in my life, and it was clearly just a company tick box exercise. And I used to get feedback about that all the time from people like, cheers, now I've got another million emails in my inbox that I need to go and answer because you've just taken up 2 hours of my time. So totally get it, right? We all have too much going on in our workday. So what the idea of Your Wellbeing Day is that we will turn up and we will deliver these 6 workshops throughout the day, and you as the employee can book on to whatever you want to book on to. Not every employee is going to want to sit through an 1.5-hour menopause workshop. Like a 20-year-old lad is not going to care about that. But there are a bunch of other people who will. Same with me and my stress. If someone doesn't feel like they deal with a lot of stress or anxiety, then they might not want to sit through my workshop. So it's about empowering health autonomy and employers providing the good stuff to employees, but not forcing them to sit through it, which is only going to cause more stress, which is the complete opposite of what we're trying to achieve.
It becomes the wrong direction, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah. So I'm really proud of the idea and the concept and what I've built and sort of bringing the people together, because there is something for everybody. Like there is movement. We've got yoga and a seated stretch for people who can't do the yoga. We've got a men's health. We've got women's. We've got the breath work and the EFT. So somebody will be able to get something out of it.
I think it's an awesome idea. It is something that I've sort of been, I guess, as I've been, getting my head around the podcast and stuff, and then thinking about there's different ways that I could be supporting people in their career journey. And I've been trying to sort of think outside the box. And I really, and one of the things that has had me thinking about is just the ways that collaboration can sort of play in that. And I just think, it's such a powerful tool if you can get people working together. Like in my work, we're sort of part of what we do is, trying to help businesses have their employment needs met. And some of the conversations that these big employers are starting to have is, well, instead of all competing for the people that we want to be apprentices, why don't we work together to sort of drive that attraction piece so that and then everyone's going to have enough, So I think working together is such a powerful thing. So
I agree.
Congratulations on getting that together and launched.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. I've met so many people, and this is the fun thing about moving careers and doing something different and starting a business is I know so many people. There's like the lyrics from that Drake song, like, I know way too many people here right now that I didn't know last year. Like, who the fuck are y'all? And I have got so many new friends and met so many cool people and collaborating, and where I'm going into this wellbeing space now and delivering this training, people that I've met 3 months ago are seeing my posts and being like, oh, I didn't know you did this. That's awesome. I know someone you could talk to. And, that whole networking piece and the collaboration is so powerful. And I would never have done that when I was in my corporate job. Like, I had no need to, I guess. But when you step out of that and you're forced to, find your way in the world, it's actually really nice.
Yeah. No, it's been awesome for me. Like, I finished my job up in the sort of end of October last year, and then me and my wife are getting ready to move to Newcastle from where we were. So as soon as I finished that job, and then at that time I probably had about 12 connections on LinkedIn and had hardly ever used it. And then I sort of thought, oh, I'm about to be moving to a whole new town, a lot bigger, like Bathurst, where we came. Well, I was in Blaney, which was like 3,000 people, half an hour out of the main town, which is 30,000, and about to move to Newcastle, which is still relatively small for Australia, but maybe about 300,000 people. And I was sort of like, well, we're about to move to this place. Like, I don't want to fall into a black hole of having no community, not knowing anyone. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to jump on LinkedIn, start connecting with people in Newcastle. And next thing I know, I'm chatting to Laura Allen in England, and and having you on my podcast. So, which I sort of at the same time started planning. I was like, it was something that I'd been pushing for a couple of years at the job I was in, saying, "Oh, we need to do a podcast. We need to do a podcast. I'll do it." And we just never got it up. And then when I finished the job, I was like, all right, I'm going to do a podcast because I've been wanting to do it for ages. And so I'll start connecting with people. And it takes you on this wild journey of connecting with people and seeing different ways that people are doing stuff, and actually having people reach out and connect, and finally actually get to meet people either in person or actually just, well, we haven't necessarily met in person, but
I feel like I know you.
I've met you in person just as much as my team members. We all at work. We all work by distance as well. So, So,
Alex, can I ask you, Alex? Can I ask you what is it about doing a podcast that excited you?
So I love the creative outlet. So for me, the whole process of building the whole thing. So the branding around it, the communication strategy, like the strategy piece is a big one for me in terms of enjoyment. But I also just love really quality conversations. So getting to sit down with someone, this one-on-one, and have a good quality conversation, I just find really enriching and really enjoy that. And then, of course, what can come out of that as well is so great. Like, so we can catch up today and just have this really great conversation, which for me, that in and of itself, even if it wasn't anything ever, even for public consumption, I would still just get great enjoyment out of that. But then from that, I am able to then go and create content that I can then be sharing with a whole bunch of people, to sort of try and add value to people's lives wherever I can in their career journey. And so, I'll create an audio podcast. I'll put this on YouTube. It'll go on small clips onto LinkedIn, and I'm even going to give TikTok a crack. So,
you're brave.
Yeah, I'm not going to be dancing, but
should we do a dance now? Just so if it makes the reel.
All right, I'll have to cut that out. No, it stays in. One of my things is I want to build something that's professional but not polished. So that's one of the things I sort of tell myself in terms of, that's, I guess, one of my branding values, I guess, is sort of being professional but not polished, because
I love that.
Yeah, it's not about trying to look squeaky clean and as if you never say there we go. I just love the process. I just wanted to be able to support people, and this has just been a medium that probably for the last 4 or 5 years I've just been obsessed with the idea of podcasting, and I just think it's such a great medium.
It really is. And I have very similar reasons for you for when I sort of started mine, which is interviewing people who had left corporate just to inspire. I wanted to help and inspire people on their own journey and sort of show the different ways that people had done it. But what happened recently, which I was really not expecting, was that somebody decided to purchase the services of someone that I interviewed. So I had an inbox message on Instagram to say, oh, I just listened to this podcast with you and this personal trainer, and I've decided that I want to work with him. So I've signed up for his like 6-month program.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness me, the tears. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Because that was not even the intention, but it was so magical that someone decided to make a positive change in their life and a purchase decision based off of a conversation. So it's so powerful, these things.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing another podcast, because I think the more we have conversations, the more it helps people. So thank you.
Absolutely. That's an awesome story, because I think one of the things about this podcast, so like not necessarily, my two big priorities are obviously my audience and hoping that anyone that comes across my content can find something that sort of supports them in some way. And then the second thing is my guests. And I really hope that my guests get great value out of it. One, from the conversation that we have, but also hoping that it helps them get discovered. And yeah, so I would absolutely love it if someone sort of came across you through this and found themselves an awesome career coach, or someone that could come to their company and support them on a wellbeing day. Jumping back to that quickly, is that saying that so you go to the company physically
Nope.
as a group, or it's online?
It's all online. Yep. So I've made an effort to make sure my whole business model is online, because I want to be online. So next week I'm flying to Athens and I'm going to be delivering some training from Athens. Like, that was my dream from sitting in Costa Rica. But also I recognize now that the workplace has changed and not everybody is in a physical office. So all of our sessions can be done either in the office or online. The yoga one, you do need kind of like space and a yoga mat to do it. But I know a lot of companies that already have big meeting rooms where they clear out space for those types of activities. So that's the only one caveat that we have. But we just wanted anyone and everyone to be able to drop into the sessions when we're delivering them to be able to attend.
Yeah, awesome. So it is all delivered live, but not necessarily face-to-face in person.
Correct.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, that's really cool. So I guess if people want to get in touch with you, how could they find you?
Oh, it depends which side do you want. Do you want the more professional side, or do you want the fun side? No,
however you're happy for people to find you, I'm happy to share that.
So predominantly I'm on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's fun. I've definitely spent the last 6 months making sure my LinkedIn is fun, my audience are fun, the people I engage with are fun. So you can find me on there, LinkedIn, on Laura Allen. And I also do have an Instagram account, which is more the sort of raw and cut version of, I don't know, me walking down to a coffee shop and talking a load of absolute rubbish on a story. And I'm Laura Allen Coach on there.
Awesome. Very good. And I'll have all the links on the show notes, and I'll link to your website and stuff. If someone is interested in like the Your Wellbeing, is that the best place to go, is your website, or?
Yep. So I've got www.yourwellbeingday.com. So that's that one there. And then my coaching website is careerandwellnesscoaching.com.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Laura. And
thank you.
Yeah, all the best with the future endeavours.
Thank you. And you, I can't wait to see this episode and all of your other guests as well. So it sounds like you've got some really cool people on. So thank you. Thank you for opening up the conversation and giving us space.